Maria and welcome to SC Global News. From Australia becoming the first nation to ban social media for children under the age of 16 to the US Representative Riley Moore who visited Nigeria to highlight the plight of Christians, we have many stories to cover. Australia has become the first country to ban social media access for children under the age of 16, enforcing strict age checks across major platforms like TikTok, YouTube, Instagram and Facebook. The unprecedented law, which took effect at midnight, has drawn global attention as potential model for online child safety while sparking debate over privacy, free speech and teenage mental health.
Australia became the first country to ban children under 16 from accessing major social media platforms effective Wednesday, according to Reuters. The government ordered platforms including TikTok, YouTube, Instagram and Facebook to block underage users from midnight. Researchers linked excessive social media use among young teens to significant mental health harms, prompting Australia to introduce the policy. Officials stated the mandate covered 10 leading platforms and imposed strict age checks. Authorities commented that non-compliant companies could face fines up to 49.5 million Australian dollars. The government reported that firms had agreed to use tools such as age inference, selfie-based age estimation, and document verification to strengthen online child protection efforts nationally. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese described the move as a significant social shift. He was quoted indirectly as saying, "The measure represented a proud day for families and a major reform aimed at reducing online harm." However, tech companies and free speech advocates expressed concerns. Reuters noted that some young users feared the ban could limit community building and emotional support, particularly for niche groups. Analysts said several countries were now observing Australia as a test case. Meanwhile, around 1 million Australian children were poised to lose access as platforms began removing underage accounts.
A Catholic church and a chapel at Rome's busiest train station were desecrated within a week of each other. The first incident occurred at St. Nicholas of Bari Church in Ostia, and within days, urine and human excrement were found in multiple areas, including the altar of a Catholic chapel at Termini railway station. These incidents reflect a troubling trend as numerous acts of desecration in churches have been reported across Europe and around the world over the past year. A Catholic church and a chapel at Rome's busiest train station was recently desecrated within a week of one another. An act of reparation was performed in one and the other is being closed after the sacrilege. According to the Diocese of Rome, human feces were found at various parts of St. Nicholas of Bari Church in Ostia, including the altar. Cardinal Baldassare Reina, the Vicar General of the Diocese of Rome, Bishop Monsignor Renato Tartanelli Baccari, Auxiliary Bishop of Southern Sector, and the parish priest celebrated a solemn mass of reparation at the church on December 1st. Within days after the first desecration, urine and human excrement were found in multiple corners of a Catholic chapel, including the altar at the Termini railway station, Rome's main train station, which frequently draws Catholic pilgrims traveling to the Eternal City. Diocesan statements stated that St. Nicholas of Bari Church was shaken by this very serious and sacrilegious act. Unknown vandals entered the church, making a gesture of profound desecration. Human excrement was found in several places in the building, including the altar, a place reserved for the Eucharistic sacrifice. Following the desecration, the church stayed open to visitors, but masses were temporarily moved to the nearby parish until the Mass of Reparation on December 1st, during which the altar and walls were purified. The Termini Chapel, which serves both as a frequent prayer spot for travelers and as a refuge in an area increasingly associated with homelessness and drug use, has recently experienced several acts of desecration. These incidents prompted its temporary closure to prevent further profanation, especially during the many hours when no Catholics are present inside. Father Domenico Montefort, rector of the Termini Chapel, told the Italian news outlet that although he bears no ill will toward the homeless and those in need who often seek shelter there, some sadly do not respect the chapel's sacred nature. Numerous acts of desecration inside churches have taken place throughout Europe and indeed across the globe within the last year alone. Dr. Branca Pereira spoke about her relationship with Sister Lucia dos Santos, one of the visionaries of Our Lady of Fatima, whom she cared for during the final 15 years of her life. December 10th marks the 100th anniversary of these apparitions. The doctor particularly highlighted Sister Lucia's humility and obedience, especially toward God and the Carmelite order, which she loved so deeply. Let's have a look into the story.
Dr. Branca Pereira Acevedo, the physician who cared for Sister Lucia dos Santos, one of the visionaries of Our Lady of Fatima for 15 years, shared her relationship with her. I was her doctor for her body, she said. He was my spiritual doctor. Sister Lucia, the only one of the 3 shepherd children still living at the time, moved in 1925 to the Spanish city of Tui in Pontevedra province, where she spent more than a decade before returning to Portugal and professing her vows as a Carmelite nun in 1949. December 10th marks the 100th anniversary of the apparitions, an occasion for which the Holy See has granted a jubilee year at the site where they took place, the House of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, named in honor of the devotion the Little Shepherdess of Fatima promoted throughout her life. During the premiere of the short film, The Heart of Sister Lucia, Dr. Pereira shared her testimony as a physician. Pereira accompanied Sister Lucia at the Carmelite convent in Coimbra, Portugal, until the visionary's death on February the 13th, 2005, at the age of 97, a period during which Pereira herself underwent a profound conversion inspired by Sister Lucia's example and witness. Pereira spoke about Sister Lucia's personality with the affection of someone remembering a beloved childhood friend. She was a person just like any of us. Anyone who didn't know her would never have picked her out of a crowd. There was nothing proud or vain about her. She always said she was merely an instrument of God. The doctor emphasized her humility and obedience, both to God and to the Carmelite order, which she loved so deeply. When Pereira grew cold in her faith, Sister Lucia taught her that through God and the Church, we can do everything well. One of the most significant moments Pereira shared with Sister Lucia was the publication in 2000 by then Vatican Secretary of State Cardinal Angelo Sodano of the third part of the Fatima Secret, the vision revealed to the 3 shepherd children on July the 13th, 1917 in Cova da Iria and written down by Sister Lucia in 1944. The doctor recalled the seer's calm and unwavering demeanor. Despite persistent claims from some, that part of the secret still remained undisclosed. Sister Lucia prepared for the beatification of her cousins, the shepherd children Jacinta and Francisco Marto, with indescribable joy. Pereira remembered that in Sister Lucia's final year, the visionary remained cheerful and attentive to others, even amid great suffering. Until her last days, she lived a life of prayer and penance to spread the message Our Lady had entrusted to her, the devotion of the first 5 Saturdays and consecration to her Immaculate Heart.
The Commission of the Bishops' Conferences of the European Union has raised concerns over a recent ruling by the Court of Justice of the European Union that obliges EU nations to recognize same-sex marriages legally performed in any other member country. COMC argued that the judgment affects national authority over marriage laws and may set precedents that influence other sensitive legal areas across the region.
Vatican News reported that the Commission of the Bishops' Conferences of the European Union expressed concern on December the 9th over a recent ruling from the Court of Justice of the European Union. The judgment issued on November the 25th requires EU countries to recognize same-sex marriages legally concluded in another member state, even when national law does not permit such unions. The case involved a Polish couple who married in Germany in 2018 but were unable to have their marriage registered after returning to Poland. According to COMC, the judgment touches on issues that fall within national authority, particularly the lawful definition of marriage. Church officials noted that EU law states marriage remains defined by national legislation and that member states maintain the right to determine whether same-sex marriage is permitted. However, the bishops said the judgment narrows this principle by insisting that states comply with broader EU obligations. COMC added that the decision creates uncertainty for governments, which may struggle to anticipate how future family law concerns will be interpreted or decided. The bishops cautioned that similar legal approaches could affect other sensitive areas, including surrogacy. Sources said COMC saw the decision as going beyond the EU court's intended authority.
Speaking to journalists in Castel Gandolfo, the Pope answered questions on a range of topics, including the current peace proposal for the Russia-Ukraine conflict put forward by US mediators. Pope Leo XIV noted that the long-standing alliance between Europe and the United States may unfortunately be shifting and confirmed that the Holy See is quietly working to secure the return of Ukrainian children deported to Russia. Pope Leo XIV, speaking to the journalists in Castel Gandolfo on December 9th, said the long-standing alliance between Europe and the United States may unfortunately be shifting and confirmed that the Holy See is working discreetly to help return Ukrainian children deported to Russia. When asked about whether the initiative was fair, the Pope replied, quote, "I'd prefer not to comment. I haven't read it in full. Unfortunately, the portions I have seen suggest a major shift in what had long been a genuine alliance between European Union and the US," end quote. He spoke to reporters after his meeting with the Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky at Castel Gandolfo. The Pope added that the recent remarks by Trump about the Europe seemed aimed at undermining what he believed is a crucial partnership now and for the future. It is a plan crafted by President Trump and his advisors, and as a President of United States, he has all rights to do that. According to the Vatican, during Tuesday's meeting with Zelensky, the Holy Father urged that dialogue should continue in pursuit of a just and lasting peace in Ukraine. Their conversation also covered the situation of prisoners of war and the urgent need to secure the return of Ukrainian children to their families. The Vatican said that the Holy See will keep working on these issues, including through the mission of Pope's Special Envoy of Humanitarian Matters in Ukraine, Cardinal Matteo Zuppi, and will continue efforts to facilitate the release of prisoners of war. In response to a question from a reporter, the Pope acknowledged the progress on repatriating abducted Ukrainian children has been very slow, unfortunately, but declined to elaborate. The Vatican has been acting as an intermediary between Kyiv and Moscow on children's return. On platform X, Zelensky wrote, quote, "I informed the Pope about diplomatic efforts with the US to achieve peace, and we discussed next steps and the Vatican's mediation aimed at bringing back our children abducted by Russia," end quote. The Vatican has launched a fully digital version of the Pontifical Yearbook, making global church information accessible online for the first time. Unveiled on December 8, the platform offers real-time data on dioceses, curial offices, religious institutes, and diplomatic missions. Church officials said the project modernizes a centuries-old reference tool and improves transparency, accessibility, and service across the worldwide Catholic community.
The Vatican introduced the first fully digital pontifical yearbook on December the 8th, according to Vatican News. The platform, accessible via browser and mobile app, offers updated global information on the Roman Curia, dioceses, religious institutes, and apostolic nunciatures. Officials said the project modernizes how the Church shares institutional data and expands access for users worldwide. The Secretariat of State and the Dicastery for Communication jointly developed the system. Pope Leo XIV reportedly completed the inaugural login and explored the interface during the launch. Reports indicated that he expressed gratitude for a tool expected to assist those serving the Church. Church authorities explained that the digital ecclesial register replaces the limitations of the printed edition by enabling immediate updates on appointments, structural changes, and official records. They noted that advanced search functions allow end users to filter data by name, diocese, role, or country. Vatican News stated that the creators designed the resource for curial offices, nunciatures, bishops' conferences, religious institutes, academic institutions, and communications professionals who rely on certified ecclesial data. Developers are continuing to build the application and plan to add archival content and more analytical tools over time. User access is available through subscription on the official website and via apps for iOS and Android.
Florida has become the second state after Texas to label the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE as foreign terrorist organizations following an executive order signed by Governor Ron DeSantis. The order accuses both groups of supporting violent extremism and claims links between CARE leaders and Hamas militants. DeSantis also announced that Florida lawmakers are working on legislation to block what he calls the spread of Sharia law in the state.
Florida has become the second U.S. state after Texas to officially designate the Muslim Brotherhood and the Council on American-Islamic Relations as foreign terrorist organizations. Governor Ron DeSantis announced the move on Monday through a statement on X, confirming that he has signed an executive order banning both groups from operating in the state. The order mirrors a similar action taken last month by Texas Governor Greg Abbott. DeSantis' directive asserts that the Muslim Brotherhood has supported violent extremism, including political assassinations and attacks on civilians, as part of its goal to establish a global Islamic caliphate. It further claims that CARE, though known publicly for challenging negative stereotypes of Arab and Muslim communities, has had members convicted of providing or attempting to provide material support to foreign terrorist organizations. The order also cites alleged ties between CARE leaders and Hamas militants, linking the organization to a deadly 7/10 attack. In a separate post on his personal X account, DeSantis revealed that Florida lawmakers have begun drafting legislation aimed at preventing what he described as the spread of Sharia law within the state.
On Wednesday, December 9th, U.S. Congressman Riley Moore shared reports of violence against Christian communities in Benue State, recounting what he was told during a visit to campus for internally displaced persons. He described attacks that killed entire families and forced survivors to flee their villages. US Representative Riley Moore recently visited Nigeria to highlight the plight of Christians displaced by widespread violence and Islamic terrorism in Benue State. He met with families living in internally displaced persons camp after attacks by armed Fulani militants, noting that more than 600,000 Christians in Benue have been forced from their homes. Survivors shared horrific accounts of brutality, including a mother who witnessed her husband and 5 children murdered before fleeing while pregnant, and another whose newborn was cut from her womb after her family was killed. Moore described these testimonies as deeply traumatic and said they would remain with him forever. He called for a renewed global response to dismantle the violent networks behind the attacks, restore security in rural communities, and ensure that displaced Christians can return to their ancestral lands without fear. According to Moore, ignoring the crisis fueled by Islamic terrorism enables further devastation. His outreach, he said, is part of a broader strategy to protect vulnerable communities in Nigeria and ensure their freedom to worship and live safely in their homeland. That's all for today. Until we meet again, God bless and thank you.